Hey y'all, so you want to know why the transverse wave made better grades than the longitudinal wave? I'll tell you why. So the transverse wave, it was always on top of its game. And the longitudinal wave just went with the flow. Uh, uh, uh. Okay, so anyway, I'm going to tell you the difference today about the difference between longitudinal and transverse waves. So I'm going to share my screen, and this way I can draw for you. Go. Thanks so much. Okay, so make it big. So a transverse wave, we know that transverse waves move in, the energy moves in a perpendicular way. So it's like, and we can remember that from the T, up and down and then out. So transverse waves are like this. Oh, goodness gracious. They're like this. Okay. So, um, transverse waves transverse waves move, we can remember that because they move up and down in a perpendicular uh, manner. And we can remember that because of the T. The T in transverse, of course, it has like the up and down and then it goes out. Up and down and it goes out. It goes like actually both ways. It could be a dance, much like the wave. So anyway, the transverse wave goes up and down and out. So there are important parts, though, important parts of the transverse wave that we need to know, and we need to know how to label. The crest is up here, and you can remember that because it is the tippy top. The tippy top right up here. That is the crest. And then we have down here would be the trough. I'm going to label it with a T, and I'm going to label the crest with a C. My brush is really thick, so I don't want to write across the whole entire thing. So I'm going to label with the crest with a C and then the trough with a T. And the trough is down low, like the trough, like a feeding trough. It holds food, definitely could hold food down in there. And the wavelength, I go pink. Wavelength is the distance of the hump is the wavelength, and I'm going to label that with the W. And there's one more part that we need to know how to identify, and that is the amplitude. I'm trying to make dots right here, but it's not the amplitude right here. The amplitude, I'm going to mark it with an A. The amplitude tells us how much energy. So if it is something that has high energy, if it's a high energy transverse wave, then it's going to be, like fast going up and down like this. And if it is a low energy transverse wave, it's going to not move as much like this, right? As opposed to that glorious wave that you see like first. So that's transverse waves. Some things that are transverse, some examples of transverse waves are light waves. Light travels in a transverse wave, from up and down, and it can go through the medium. And electromagnetic waves are also transverse waves. So now I'm going to tell you about longitudinal waves. And I'm going to do that by making a new one. If it'll let me make a new one. I'm just like, maybe I'm not going to make a new one. So, what about if I paint white all over it? No, no. Okay, so I just want a new one. So, new. Thank you. No, I do not want to save. So a longitudinal wave, that's what we're going to talk about now. It goes with the flow. Okay. Longitudinal. We did a lab with a slinky to learn about longitudinal waves. And longitudinal waves, is some of them. Oh, I'm still on draw. I'm still on erase, I mean. I have big fingers. So, oh, goodness gracious. So, I don't want that to happen. So I just want to draw. So my longitudinal waves, I don't know why that's happening. So anyways, my longitudinal waves would go, I mean, no, I'm not doing longitudinal waves. I am doing longitudinal waves. But you know what? I can keep that, the scribble scrabble, because that can show compression. It all works out. See, sometimes mistakes just work out great. And that's what happened here. No chaos. So this right here is the compression. Orange. Orange, you glad I changed it to orange because it's not going orange. This should be orange. This is compression. It's definitely not orange. But this right here is a compression. I'm gonna label that with a CR. I mean a CO, actually COMP. COMP. And you know compression because it is pressed together. It's the parts that are closest together. Those are compressed and they're closest together. And then right here we have rarefaction. It's definitely not blue, but rarefaction. Rarefaction is the more spread out part. Okay. And I told you how to figure out where wavelength was on a transverse wave, but um, on a longitudinal wave, it goes from, now it's orange, from the compression to compression. So it's compression and then the rarefaction there, and then compression, rarefaction, compression again. It's like a sandwich. And the compressions are the bread. So the two pieces of bread are the two pieces of compression, and then the stuff in the middle is your rarefaction. Some examples of things that would uh, be longitudinal waves would be sound. Sound is a really great example of longitudinal waves because it travels and goes with the flow, right? It goes out. And um, P waves, tsunamis, and earthquakes, they're measured with seismic waves, and those seismic waves are also longitudinal, which is how we know that there's layers of the earth. Waves are really cool to learn about, and I hope that you now can tell the difference between a transverse wave and a longitudinal wave. And you can always remember with that joke, like transverse waves make the best grades because they stay on top, the top of their game. And longitudinal waves just go with the flow. Flow, longitudinal flow. So there you have it, folks. Transverse and longitudinal waves.